The rain sounds different when you've lost a war. It falls on the shattered stone of Nuremberg, cold and indifferent, leaking through the roof of a prison cell. Inside, a man once draped in medals and arrogance sits deflated. Hermann Göring Reich, Marshal of the Luftwaffe, the man who promised Hitler that his air force would sweep the skies clean, is a prisoner. The morphine is gone. The delusions of grandeur are collapsing. An American psychologist walks in, not to interrogate a battle, but to dissect the rot of an ideology. He asks Göring a simple question: when did you know the war was lost? The Reich Marshal doesn't point to Stalingrad's frozen corpses or the blood-soaked beaches of Normandy. He leans back, his eyes staring through the wet ceiling, and utters a truth that cuts deeper than any bullet. He says, "When I saw your factories, I knew it was over. Rewind the clock 4 years. The world is on fire. Paris has fallen. Swastikas drape the Eiffel Tower, and the jackbooted march of the Wehrmacht echoes across a conquered Europe. The British are gasping for air, clinging to survival in the rubble of London. And across the vast, peaceful Atlantic, a man with a patrician voice and a cigarette holder, tilted toward the sky, sits behind a microphone. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is about to say something so audacious, so logistically insane, that it will provoke laughter in the marble halls of the Reich Chancellery. It is May 16, 1940. The American military is ranked 19th in the world, smaller than Portugal's. But FDR doesn't see a weak nation. He sees a sleeping industrial leviathan. He tells Congress with a straight face that the United States will produce 50,000 warplanes per year. That number, 50,000, travels through diplomatic cables and lands on the desk of Hermann Göring. A hearty guttural laugh erupts from the corpulent field marshal. To the Nazi high command, this is the greatest joke of the war. In Germany, the production of aircraft is treated as a mystical art, a craft handed down by Aryan metallurgists working in spotless cathedral-like workshops. They see America as a racially bastardized circus of jazz music gangsters and assembly line mediocrity. In the Nazi mind, a democracy that lets black and white men work side by side, a nation softened by consumerism, could never master the spiritual warrior-based precision required to build a Daimler-Benz engine. Göring publicly mocks the pledge, calling it the desperate propaganda of a crippled president leading a degenerate nation of vacuum cleaner salesmen. The Nazis believe in the Völkisch spirit, the primacy of the will. They believe the American businessman is a materialist maggot, incapable of the sacrifice required for total war. This is not just a miscalculation. It is a philosophical fatal mistake. To prove Roosevelt wasn't bluffing, we must travel not to Washington, but to Detroit. Not to a general, but to a Danish immigrant with steel blue eyes and the massive hands of a bicycle mechanic. His name is William Cygnus Knudsen. He doesn't wear a uniform. He wears a three-piece suit. Knudsen is the president of General Motors, and FDR recruits him to lead the war production board. The Nazis laugh harder. How can a pig farmer's son from Copenhagen defeat the Luftwaffe? But Knudsen understands a physics that the mystical Nazi mind ignores. The physics of flow tolerance and rate. He looks at a complicated four-engine heavy bomber, the B-24 Liberator, and doesn't see a religious artifact. He sees 1.2 million individual parts. He sees a bottle of milk that needs to be delivered to the doorstep every single hour. Knudsen picks up the phone and calls the only man in America with an ego as monstrous as the task ahead. Henry Ford. The old man is a pacifist, a curmudgeon, and a borderline Nazi sympathizer. But he is also the high priest of the moving assembly line. Ford's son, Edsel, forces the contract through. The job: to build the Willow Run plant in Ypsilanti, Michigan. When the architects finish the blueprints, the figure stuns the world. The main assembly bay is over a mile long. It is an L-shaped beast of concrete and glass, so vast that before the roof is put on, it actually rains inside the building. The workers complain of walking miles just to reach their workstations. It is the single largest room under one roof in the history of the world. The Nazis cannot visualize a building this size because they cannot visualize an ambition this ruthless. The production begins not with a roar, but with a soul-crushing crawl. 1941 is a disaster. The Willow Run plant, as critics nickname it, can't produce bombers. Parts don't fit. The aluminum skins buckle. The Luftwaffe mocks the delays. But then the mass psychosis of America takes hold. The arsenal of democracy doesn't rely on master craftsmen chiseling engine blocks for 6 months. It relies on Rosie the Riveter. 1 million women wrap bandanas around their heads, walk out of their kitchens and into the cockpit of a heavy bomber. They hand-sew fuel-tight stitches into the wings. They buck rivets with a precision that would make a Prussian engineer weep with envy. Watch the miracle unfold in time-lapse. A Ford part stamping plant that once punched out fenders for 1939 Mercury coupes is now punching out wing spars. An aviation primer is developed that dries in minutes, not hours. The bottleneck wasn't the Germans. The bottleneck was physics, and they broke it. By the summer of 1944, the beast is fully awake. Watch the hands of the factory clock. The line moves. A fuselage drops onto a wing assembly. Engines swing down on hydraulic lifts. The smell of ozone and cutting oil fills the air. A finished B-24 Liberator of 4,000-pound aluminum Dragon with 4 roaring Pratt & Whitney engines rolls off the line. The stopwatch clicks. 63 minutes. Not one plane a day. One plane every 63 minutes. The output at Willow Run alone was higher than the total output of the entire Italian aircraft industry. Now take that single factory and multiply it by a continent. Look west to Seattle, where Boeing is blacking out the sky. Look south to Texas, where Consolidated Aircraft is turning prairie dirt into high-altitude firepower. Kaiser's Shipyards is launching Liberty ships faster than U-boats can sink them. But the sky is where the existential horror dawns on the Third Reich. The mathematics of democracy become an extinction-level event for the Luftwaffe. In 1939, Germany produced 8,000 aircraft. They were proud. In 1944, American industry didn't produce 5,000 planes. It produced 98,416, nearly 100,000 planes in a single year. More than Germany produced from 1939 to 1945 combined. The sky over Europe literally turns dark with aluminum. The qualitative arrogance vanishes. The Nazis thought their FW-190s were divine weapons, but they were hand-built racehorses drowning in a sea of mechanical draft horses. A German ace would shoot down one P-51 Mustang, and 3 more would materialize behind the clouds. The Luftwaffe wasn't defeated by superior dogfighting. It was crushed by a tsunami of logistics. There were not enough German pilots left. There was not enough fuel. The octane-rich gasoline refined in Texas was coursing through American engines, while German jets were glued together by slave labor in underground salt mines. The story comes full circle. It is 1945. The machinery of Willow Run is silent. But the echo of the rivet guns still rings in the ears of Hermann Göring. He sits in that dripping Nuremberg cell, no longer the obese, bejeweled warlord, but a gaunt man stripped of power. The American psychologist Gustave Gilbert holds the interview. Göring fidgets. He knows the German people are starving because the trains are destroyed, the bridges are rubble, the fuel tanks are empty. He looks out the barred window at the overcast sky, a sky that once belonged to him. He realizes that while Germany worshipped the heroic warrior, the American degenerate democracy had simply built a machine to make machines. The warrior spirit couldn't punch holes in ball bearings. The Wagnerian mythology died on the conveyor belts of Detroit. With a sigh that smells of defeat and cheap prison food, Göring delivers the epitaph for the 1,000-year Reich, the real miracle of production. He mutters, was that we did not understand it until the bombers were already destroying our cities. We were beaten by a country that did not even consider itself an army. The rain in Nuremberg finally stops, but for Germany the silence was already deafening.